Welcome to my tutorial for Final Commando for the Famicom disk system. And this is the Japanese version of Jackal for the NES. And Jackal is actually one of my favorite games on the NES. I think it's definitely the best two-player co-op game on the system. But it's also one of my favorite single-player action games on the system. It's one I owned. It's one of the first games I owned for the system. And yeah, it's fucking awesome. Definitely going to do a review on that. And I'll review this version too at a later date. But there are some big differences with this version. Normally, I don't beat Japanese variants of games only because I think it's kind of a cheap way to inflate my kill list. You know, I have a list of games beaten, and you know I include Japanese and U.S. Europe releases all in the same list for a system. So for what I call the NES, it has Japanese games that I beat and all that shit. But Famicom disk system, I do consider as a separate system since it's a different. You know, it uses like floppy disks basically, so it's a different system. But, so it's kind of a small technicality. Beating this counts as another game for me. On that list, I can fill out the Famicom disk system list. So that's kind of a reason that I went for this version. It's also kind of a little bit of practice. I get a kill, and at the same time I get a little practice for the US version of Jackal, which I beat only on 2 players. So I want to do a solo run of that, which I'm going to do another tutorial for that, but I got to practice that one because I'm sure there's some differences. But there's definitely some differences I noticed while playing this version. There is no horizontal scrolling, so the screen can only scroll vertically, so that means there's some missing real estate on the maps. You know, there's some areas that are missing, since you don't have that left and right scrolling movement. Aside from that, the first stage is completely omitted, so there is no, you know, the first stage in this version is the second stage of the NES version. Also, the final stage is chopped down to where there's only like the very end of the final stage in this game. And there's also no cutscenes between missions. There's no map between missions. So there's a few changes like that. Another really big change in the way that the game plays is that it's required that you beat it on 1cc or no continues lost. Since this version has no continues, so you do have to beat it 1cc. But it is a decent amount shorter than the NES version with all the stuff that was cut out. So that works in your favor. But you do have to beat this without using any continues since you don't have any in this version. So with all that said, you're going to see me find some of these star power-ups that I reveal, and you're going to want to get those. So I don't think I revealed any important ones as I was talking about this tutorial, but there is a 1-up star. The green stars are 1-up stars. You really want to get those. The other ones can sometimes power up your missiles fully, so you have a 4-way missile. It's a faster way to get that power up. And then there's a star that also clears out all the enemies on screen. So those are all useful for different things. The 1-ups are the most important ones. And you'll see me get that right in the boss area. You'll see a green star. So this is actually the second level in the NES version. And this is the one you start on in this version. So that's one of the big differences right away. But yeah, normally I wouldn't beat the Japanese variants too often because I think it's kind of cheap in my games beaten list to have you know, the US version of a game and then the Japanese version of a game right next to it. It kind of doubles the amount of kills if you were to go in and you know beat each region of game for the same game. It's like basically just beating the same game multiple times with maybe minor differences between the regions. Now, some of them have quite major differences in the difficulty and things like that, so sometimes it's interesting, but I don't do it too often. But Famicom disk system, I consider a different system, so I figured it would be another list I can build up. So for this boss, whether you have missiles or grenades, the idea is you want to get about 3 missiles or grenades on each head to destroy each head. So you're looking at about 12 grenades or 12 missiles to destroy them all. So you want to get close to them and try to machine gun the missiles as you're getting close so that you can take out the missiles while going after the heads aggressively. And also take out any tanks that spawn at the bottom. Also, don't forget about that 1-up star that I mentioned. If you rewind the video, you'll see that star appeared that I revealed. It's hidden, and you can reveal it. Make sure you reveal that and get that, because you're going to want that 1-up since there are no continues in this game. You want all the extra lives you can find. I don't know if I found them all, but I did find a few locations of them, so I'm going to point that out. You know, some of them are negligible. Like, you don't need all the stars, but This one, I don't even know what that one does. I think that one might power up your missiles fully and give you the 4-way blast for your missile. You see how when I shoot my missile, it explodes and there's like 4 pieces of explosion that bust out? That's the fully powered up missile. So that's always good to have. You want to have that whenever you can. There's a few ways you can get it. You can collect one of those power-up stars, which are rare. The main way you're going to get that is by destroying the buildings and rescuing the flashing guys that come out of the smaller buildings. Those guys will give you missile power-up. Now, if you just have grenades, then it will give you just a regular missile with no shrapnel that comes out. But as you collect more of them, you'll first get a 2-way blast for your missile. And then the next one will give you a 4-way blast, which is the best. You can pull a lot of bullshit with that by shooting from far away and taking out guys. One of the main strategies for this game, to be good at this game, is to scroll the screen slowly and try to take out as many enemies as you can and just kind of inch the screen. Playing in a real strategic way and just playing carefully is a huge part of the game. Aside from that, there's a few areas where you want to actually learn what to do, because you don't always have the luxury of inching the screen. Sometimes you have to be able to do things quickly in some areas, but you can memorize and learn that. I always recommend using save and load states to practice any parts that may give you trouble. This game took me around 2 hours and 17 minutes to beat, so it wasn't too bad. I did a practice run on about half of the game where I used save states to practice the final half of the game. Mainly for the final boss. I wanted to get that down. And in this tutorial, since this is not my actual, this contains my actual playthrough mostly in it, but I edited out some of the bosses and I spliced in my perfect runs on about 3 of the bosses. Runs where I didn't lose any lives. No deaths on the bosses. Just for the tutorial, I got those from like failed attempts and practice footage and things like that. Since I record, even when I practice, I record. Because I consider that part of my play time. Whenever I give my completion time of a game, practice time is always included. So, even when I practice with save states and all that kind of shit. So I record that, and, it has a few benefits. One is that it gives me a completion time when I do beat the game. And also, really important is that I get a lot of great footage when I want to make a tutorial version. I posted up my actual legit playthrough, so that's all intact. You can see that. You can see where I fucked up and everything like that in my legit run. But that doesn't have any commentary. For the tutorial, sometimes I will refine them a little bit for, demonstrative purposes to try to showcase some things. Now, for these lasers, they're very, very easy to dodge. For the lasers, you just want to let them fire and then just move forward. Just be close to them when they fire. And as soon as they disappear, just move forward. And you should be all right. The timing is not very strict. So you do have a little leeway with that. You don't want to be slow, but you don't have to be perfectly timing it. Always make sure you clear out these bases. Actually, the stage before this had one of the most dangerous bases in the game. And when I say base, I'm talking about the helipad where you drop these guys off. The first stage you start on in this version has one of the most dangerous and aggressive helipads in the game. So I recommend rewinding this video and check out the order that I killed everything just to make sure you clear it out because you can easily get rushed by enemies that spawn right on your ass while you're trying to drop off guys in the last level. So, just make sure that you have that ready. Now for this, just reveal that star in the middle and rush for it immediately. And when you hit that star, it's going to clear all the enemies on screen and take out all those turrets. Aside from that, just take your time, move slowly, and try to take out everything before you move forward. That's usually what I try to do. That's really my main strategy for most of the game, so there's not a lot of things to say about a lot of my general strategy because it's a similar method. You have machine gun and grenades, basically. Machine gun always fires straight up to the top of the screen. Your grenades and your missiles you can aim in any direction. You start with grenades, of course, but if you get a missile power-up, then you will have missiles, and you can upgrade them to 4-way with enough pickups. With 2 pickups. But for these things, they're very easy. You just want to... you would think that the splash damage from the shrapnel of the 4-way missile or the 2-way missile would damage it, but it doesn't really seem to damage it much at all, if at all. So the thing is, you want to land your missiles or your grenades directly on these things when they open up. Because if you don't do that, the splash damage doesn't seem to do much at all from the shrapnel attacks, like the 4-way missile. It doesn't seem to have any effect on it. I mean, I can see it flash red, but it takes a shit ton of hits and it doesn't destroy. So I would say don't even waste your time trying to do that. Just go for direct hits. Aside from that, you want to memorize the safe spots. There's safe spots on the screen when those turrets spray. They'll spray 3 bullets out each one, and you got to memorize the safe spot so that you're positioned in the safe spot when they fire. And as long as you do that, it's pretty easy. You just want to make sure you take those things out directly. Take out these underwater missile launchers immediately, as you saw me do there. You want to remove those immediately because they'll keep shooting homing missiles. And the homing missiles are very hard to dodge. You can machine gun them or grenade them out of the air, but they're a pain in the ass. So you really want to take those out before moving forward. There's 2 of them in this stage. So there's going to be a second one coming up soon that you want to make sure you take out. And of course you want to clear out the tanks and all the other enemies, of course, too. The priority is usually going to be the larger enemies like the tanks and things like that, and the more dangerous enemies. The little men, are the least lethal enemies, but they can still sneak up on you if you ignore them for too long. You can also run them over. You can't run over any of the other enemies. But I usually just shoot them. I don't really like to chance it. Though the small men, if they're about to fire, will flash for a moment before they fire. So it's usually not a surprise when you get shot by them. But if you're paying attention to other enemies and you ignore them for too long, they will start shooting at you and it can cause a problem if you forget about them. So the guys that you rescue out of the houses are not going to disappear, so you don't have to be in a rush to rescue them. So just clear out the enemies you need to and take your time. Shoot those rocks if need be, or just avoid them. The rocks that fall off the cliff. Open up all these houses definitely and rescue everyone. You want to try to drop off all the guys if you can, but if you do get killed while carrying them, you lose most of them. And you can try to pick up some of them again, but you pretty much lose a lot of the points you would have gotten. You do get 1-ups based off of points. I don't remember exactly what the point values are in this game to get the 1-ups. It might be something like first 1-up at 20,000 and then each additional one at 50,000, but I'm kind of pulling that out of my ass. I'm not sure exactly what those values are. But if you're watching the video, you could keep track of it. I believe you can only hold up to 8 lives. See where it says P6? I have 6 lives now. I believe you can only hold up to 8. So getting points at that point is not going to help you unless you lose a life. Then you can get another life from the point bonus. But for that train, if you shoot the engine with your grenade or missile, it'll blow up the entire train, and you'll get a lot of points for that too. So do what I did there. Take out these missile launching things up on the top of the cliff as well. Make sure you get rid of those. Be aggressive with that, because those are dangerous. And clear out that turret. And now after you do that, you have a pretty safe area here where you're not going to get hassled by any enemies. So you can drop everyone off. It's not a real dangerous landing area. Aside from those 2 missile launchers, you want to make sure you take those out before you go up there. Otherwise, you get destroyed. So for this part, there's a positioning a little farther in that I'll show you. As you go up here, you see that edge of the cliff. Actually, I may have already passed it, but you will see it if you watch the video. There's guys that shoot out all these cannonballs. And if you position yourself on the edge of the cliff, you can kind of take them out without getting too close. You probably you will see that if you watch the video, if you're having trouble with that part. Just watch what I did there. Now, the boss is coming up for this part, so I would recommend clearing out all the tanks and most of the little men. But mainly the tanks. Make sure you clear out all those tanks. It just makes it easier when the boss appears. Now, for the boss, I usually fire 1 straight shot and 1 diagonal shot at the boss. But that's when I have missiles. So you're going to fire just 1 straight and then 1 diagonal, and I like to kind of circle around so its bullets miss me. And then I kind of do half circles. I go in a circle and then I rotate it back. I go in another circle the other way. And that dodges all the bullets. And I just machine gun the little men that come out. And then I fire a straight missile and then maybe a diagonal missile. I try to get 2 hits in each time. Now, the only way to hit the helicopter, it seems, is with direct hits, not splash damage from the little shrapnels. So you got to land your grenade or your missile directly. Now, if you're using grenades, you may not be able to get those diagonal shots in as easily, so you may only have to go with 1 shot, but you can try for that. The grenades are a little bit slower, so it can be hard to get as many hits in. But it may be doable. It's the same strategy, though. It just may take a little longer if you're not landing as many hits. So now get the missile. Now there's going to be a missile a little bit later in this stage that's a trap. If you open the building up, a tank will come out, and I've lost 2 lives before because of that fucking thing. So just a word of warning, but you'll see it. If I forget to mention it, just look out for it. So at this point, you're far into the game. I believe this is the semifinal stage, and the final stage is not much of a stage. It's very short, but the boss can be tough. So I will try to explain the final boss best I can. As usual, clear out the area and just rescue everybody you can. There is another one up in this stage, which I'll show. I do it in kind of a sloppy fucking way. So I'm gonna give you different advice. I'm gonna just tell you to take the right path to begin with. But you'll see what I'm talking about a little later. I didn't know if that star power-up was in this game. Actually, I had watched the tutorial of the US version recently on You Can Beat Video Games, which is a great channel. Highly recommend it. But I had watched the video, and then it got me inspired to kind of play the game again. So I started with the Japanese version on the Famicom disc just to get that extra kill on my list. I didn't really want to do the Japanese version of the regular Famicom because I don't really count that as a different system, So, like I said, I don't really like having duplicates of the different regions on my kill list too often. But this is a little technicality where I could kind of justify it. Now you see, by shooting something, I revealed that star on the right side, on the right bridge, but I can't get to it. So just keep that in mind. I'm not sure exactly how you reveal it, what you have to shoot to reveal it, but there is a way to reveal it by shooting something on one of these bridges. I don't have the exact data on that though, so you're gonna have to fuck around and try to reveal it. But try to, if need be, rewind my video and check it. Now I got cornered here, which is really shitty, and so don't do that. Just next time, take the right bridge. Don't take the left bridge like I did there. But when you get that star, you'll get a 1-up. So don't forget about that. Make sure you pick that up. Because like I said, there are no continues, so you want that. You want to have all the lives you can because the last boss is tricky, and the boss coming up is tricky too. And just in general, it's easy to lose lives on some of these parts. Sometimes even when you inch the screen and play carefully, if you don't know what's coming up exactly, if you haven't practiced it, you get destroyed. And that happened to me a number of times because I didn't practice a lot of parts. I just kept playing the game over and over again with, I did a little practice on the end half of the game, but I only practiced the bosses. I didn't really practice the areas. So I just kind of improvised. Again, sloppy again. Had I practiced, I wouldn't have been like hanging out there. I thought that the bullets wouldn't be able to hit me that far in, but see, I made another shitty mistake. So, this does get sloppy. So learn from those mistakes and don't repeat that. Just position yourself a little bit differently. These parts are kind of tough because if you don't have the 4-way missile, it's hard to reach some of these enemies, as you can see. They don't really let up with this turret fire. Now, you can try to scroll off the screen sometimes and get the bullets to disappear, but I may have had to scroll the screen even more to get that to happen. I didn't end up doing it right. I think if I would have went all the way down, I could have reset the bullets completely, but I'm not sure if that would have worked on that part. It does work a little bit later. And it's a strategy I got from the aforementioned channel that I mentioned. So I'm gonna use that strategy on the turret section. But you'll see that shortly. So make sure you clear out all this shit. But, pay attention to the positions that actually worked. And, avoid the ones that didn't. I guess that's the best advice I could give. I didn't really master the stages or anything like that. It's kind of a refined tutorial, semi-refined tutorial, but I didn't go all out and do all the sections of no deaths, with no deaths or anything like that. Like I have done stuff like that in other tutorials. Using save states, I did a no damage run of Ninja Gaiden 3 for the NES for my tutorial, where I did all the sections with no damage, starting at the beginning of each section. But I didn't do it all back to back, obviously. I didn't do a full no damage run. That would have took a lot fucking longer. But I didn't go through all that work with this because, I don't believe that the game is that difficult. It is a challenging game. But it's just a lot of positioning, and it's playing careful and clearing out the screen as you move. You just got to know what's coming up and know your positions pretty much. It's really not that hard with a little practice. This part is aggressive. This is one of the most aggressive landing stations or helipads in the game. You want to clear out those first turrets and then go around, circle around the right like I did there, and then take out the other two. Don't open up this house over here. You see that house? It's usually going to be a missile, but in this area, it's a tank that comes out of the house. So you really don't want to do that, unless you want to kill the tank for points or something, but I really don't recommend doing that. Now, for these two turrets, it seems like you're fucked initially. Like, how are you going to get through that gate? But you can actually machine gun them, I figured out. So, your machine gun travels through the gate just like their bullets travel through that chain link fence. It doesn't protect you from anything. It's just visual. You can't drive through it, though, but bullets can pass through it. So, I don't think your missiles will pass through it, though. It's very strange, but you can machine gun those turrets, so just do that. Now, this boss can be tricky. This was my no-death run edited in. So I would recommend taking out the turrets first to make your life easier with this shit. And once the turrets are gone, it's pretty damn easy. Just take out the, take out the tanks. You want to get in there fast and take out the turrets, so be aggressive with that. When the garage opens, fire your grenade or missile at the top of the garage, and you'll take out that flashing light in one shot, and that will destroy the garage. Now, in this version, there's no horizontal scrolling, unlike the US version, so there's only 2 garages to destroy. I believe in the US version, it's something like 4 garages or something. It's harder. Once you destroy both garages, you can just destroy the red gate at the top, and that ends the level. So be aware that you don't have to destroy the turret guns if you don't want to. A lot of times I ignored them and I just destroyed the garages, but it's a lot more dangerous, and I don't recommend playing that way. I think it's safer to take out the turrets. So now this is the final stage. So if you take your time on this stage, the stage itself is not hard. I mean, it's not too bad. Take out this 3-way shooting turret first. It pops out. You want to take that out fast and get rid of that. Take out the little men, break through the gate. Now, make sure you take out these jeeps as they appear. They are dangerous. They're very fast enemies. The jeeps are the fastest enemies, so you have to be wary of them. They can kind of pop out of nowhere and run into you or throw grenades at you. They're a little dangerous. So take them out as they appear. See, that one almost got me, so that was dangerous. But they do leave. So I think it's down there now. So see how they're fucking sneaky. They circle around. So now what you want to do is kind of peep out and throw your grenades diagonally and take out these things. Now, once you've taken out the bottom 2 turrets, you can shoot the other ones head on. You don't need to do diagonal shots if you don't want to. You can just take them out head on. You want to lure out their shots a little low and then circle back around and shoot at them. And it'll trick them so you can get your shots in. Now for this part, all you got to do is scroll the screen downward until the bullets disappear. And now drive back up, fire out a diagonal grenade. And that's it. So wait for the bullets to disappear, drive back up, fire out a diagonal shot. And whether you miss or not, always retreat. Don't try to get in a second shot or you'll get killed. So just only fire once. Fire 1 grenade or missile and drive back and then wait for the bullets to completely disappear. You got to scroll the screen down far enough where the bullets won't completely disappear. But once they disappear, go back up and fire off a diagonal shot. See, I missed my diagonal there, so I went back down. As long as you play carefully, it's very easy. You may have a tank or 2 that you have to take out, but just kill those if they appear. Don't be in a rush to drive through. So now the boss is very hard. This is the final boss coming up. And it can be very tricky. But there is a method to it, but I would recommend practicing this part with save and load states because it's tough. And if you don't have it down, you could lose all your remaining lives easily like I did. So you want to have it down. Take out the jeeps first because and avoid the jets or take them out. And now clean up some of the scragglers, some of the regular enemies walking around. Clean them up because they're going to be a pain in the ass. The little men don't respawn, but the red tanks constantly respawn. Now keep in mind, I didn't kill the turrets on the left and right side. I believe you can do that. The only thing you have to take out is the middle part of the boss, and it takes 12 grenades or 12 missiles to destroy. So keep that in mind. Now with the turrets, they're easy to avoid as long as you keep in mind that they can't shoot the middle gap of the screen. They only shoot on the left or right edges. You see me staying in that middle section the whole time? That's because I know that the turrets can't shoot in the middle. So if you don't want to destroy the turrets and you just want to go straight for the kill, ignore the turrets, but don't go on the outer edge. If you go on the left or right edges, you're going to die from the lasers. But while you're doing that, you want to make little circles and take out the red tanks, obviously, and then circle back and launch a grenade or 2 at the center console that you have to destroy. After 12 shots, it's destroyed. Now you're on the second form, which is the final form. Now for that, I like to stay close and use my machine gun mainly, and I throw grenades as well. Now it's a little tricky. It's going to take some practice to get the rhythm down, but you can see where the bullet's going to shoot, and you can kind of get in the gaps and just keep machine gunning and grenading it. You're actually safe for the most part from the flame that comes out of the barrel. I pretty much never get hit from it when I stay in the middle like this. So, I mean, I'm sure you can, but it just never happens to me. As long as I dance from left to right like that, I usually never get hit by it. But what I will get hit by sometimes is those stray bullets. The bullets that it launches out, it's easy to get caught in those bullets. So I would recommend practicing with save and load states to really get it down to where you can do each form without dying. And then maybe even practice it a little more and do it a few more times if you want to be more confident. But at least beat each form without dying in practice with just the grenades. Try doing that. That's what I did in practice. And, after a few tries, I did fuck it up when I got to it a few times because I didn't have a lot of lives. And, of course, I wasn't able to do a no-death when I got there. I did it in practice. I didn't die on the actual final form in my legit run, but I did probably die twice on that first form. It's tricky. So, yeah, that's about it. That's pretty much all my tips for the game. Like I said, I didn't really refine it, but I felt like this was more than good enough to show how to beat the game. So I thought it would be good to put out a little tutorial. I'm going to put out another tutorial when I beat the US version, which I'm probably going to start working on soon. That version actually has 3 or 4 continues at least. And it has an extra stage, and the final stage is much longer. So I'm going to have to practice that. There may even be differences. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use the same strategy on the final boss and some of the other parts. So I may have to re-practice some parts. But whenever I do complete that, I will make another tutorial for that. I'm also going to review both versions of the game, too. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.